Now, the question is, what are these steps? Some very learned Sikh scholars have looked at the common understanding of enlightenment across the Indian traditions, and they've made an observation that, including this verse, there are only 7 verses left to reach to the end of the JAPJI Sahib. And some scholars have said that since there are 7 verses left to complete JAPJI Sahib, they've aligned these 7 steps with 7 steps of enlightenment that have come in other ancient texts. In particular, there is an ancient spiritual scripture called the Yoga Vashishta. That is said to be written by Valmiki, who is the author of the Ramayana. And in that specific scripture, there are 7 steps to enlightenment that have been highlighted. I'll quickly go through what these 7 steps are. The first one is Shubh Ichha, noble desire. The very first step, according to these 7 steps, is that within you a desire has to come that I want to know more about what this divine is. Within you there has to be a thirst. That's the very first step of walking on this path. That I want to know more, that there is a realization that I don't have, but there is a thirst in me to find this out. The second step is Vicharana, to contemplate, who am I? Where am I in life? What is the purpose of life? What is the nature of reality? The third step is Tanumanasi, the thinning of the mind. Not constantly being distracted by the world, but actually now prioritizing this path. Not constantly just listening to the whims of the mind. The fourth step is Sattvapati, the awakening of spiritual wisdom. When you start questioning who am I, you start having this internal contemplation. When you realize that the answer is within you and not outside of you, then you start getting an awakening. You spend more time with other spiritual scholars, with other spiritual seekers, you start reading more, you start finding more information out, and then there is this kind of realization that starts to build within you. That's the fourth step. The fifth step is Asamsakti, the breakdown of the barrier between the inner world and the outer world. Once the wisdom has got hold of you, and once you've applied that wisdom, once you practice that wisdom, the fifth step, it is said, is to start breaking down this wall of separation between I and everything else around me. That's only the fifth step. The sixth step is called Padharat Abhavana, which is that matter ceases to exist. You no longer see matter as something permanent. You now see it as light, as part of a divine energy. This is the penultimate step, where you've broken the barrier between me and everything else is no longer a tree or a car or a bird or a sky, that now everything starts to look as one cosmos, one universal energy. And the seventh and final step is called Turiya, which is utter annihilation of the self, utter losing of everything that you know to be me or everything else, and all that there exists is oneness. Not that you see the oneness, but that there is only oneness. So this is what has been already identified as the steps towards Turiya, which is the final peak. So some scholars have said that these are the steps that Guru Nanak is talking about, and that in the next few verses that each one of these concepts is going to be highlighted. So the Guru says, E tarai pat pavdiya, on this path there are steps towards the husband. climb them to become one. Chadiye hoye 21. Sun galla akas ki kita ai ris. Sun, hearing the galla, these talks of heavenly ideas, akas di galla, hearing the heavenly talks, sun galla akas ki kita ai ris, insects begin to imitate. And on this path, you will find that there are many imposters, many people who impersonate spiritual seekers, who impersonate spiritual masters, and there are very few people who are actually walking on this path. This is what Guru is highlighting to us. Beware of some of the obstacles. There are only a few people that can climb these steps, but there are many others who will get you to believe that they have climbed these steps already. There are many others who will try and convince you that they've already done it. They hear about these spiritual concepts and then they imitate what they've heard. They talk about them, but they don't have the grace to go all the way. So being able to talk about spiritual concepts and ideas that you've heard from others is not the same as actually knowing the experience. And today we've become so comfortable with hearing everyone and anyone who's able to talk about these things, but how do we find the ones who've actually walked the path? Where do we find them? Are we even looking for the real deal? No one seems to be going all the way. So who do we find? Who can guide us? So instead, Guru is just highlighting that there are a lot of imposters who look spiritual, but the reason that they're being spiritual is for worldly gain. They're doing it for the fame. They're doing it for the money. They're doing it for the ego. They're doing it, but their motivation for doing it is to do with something worldly. There is some material thing that they're doing, even if it's their own ego, their own greatness, their own recognition. Now, Guruji has talked about these and has used this word kita very specifically. In the 7th Pauri, Guruji talks about all of these people who may have lots of fame, who may have conquered the world. Everybody knows their name. And Guru has said, Jetis nadar na ave tavat na pocheke. If they don't have the grace of the divine, then in the end nobody asks about them. Kita andar kitakar. They become insects amongst insects. Dosi dostare. They are a sinner. They are punished. So these are the people that we're talking about. Je jug chare arja hor dasuni hoye. Nava khanda vich janiye nal chale sab koy. If you're famous, if you have a really long life, if everybody knows your name. So this is the Kita, the people that we're talking about. Guruji has talked about them, but now Guru is reminding us where you're going to find them. At what point on the path do you need to be aware of these people? So these are being described as insects. They're the ones who may have received worldly success in the material world, but they haven't attained this true realization. They're not the genuine article. They're fake. They're fraudsters. And it's important that we don't try to be more than we are. We shouldn't fall into these traps as well. This is why Guru is clarifying so many different steps. Here and even in the previous verses, the Guru has made sure that you can identify what are the qualities that you need to look out for. So this is the importance of Naam, that we begin to realize that we're not ourselves becoming imposters. At any point, we shouldn't think that just because we have a little bit of knowledge, that then we can now pretend to the world that we've achieved this spiritual enlightenment. The ones who've achieved spiritual enlightenment, we can't find them. They're sitting quietly meditating somewhere. The ones who haven't achieved enlightenment, they're the ones showing the whole world how enlightened they are. We have to be aware of these things. The Guru is showing us the way, all the signposts, all the ways that we can get led astray. And Naam is the tool, this underpinning tool that's just carrying us. As long as you have Naam, you'll be okay. But we need to realize that Guru has actually talked about quite a lot of different concepts. And although we said that reciting Naam is easy and can be easy, in reality it's very challenging. There are so many distractions, there are so many ways for our mind to be distracted, for our mind to wander off. So we don't need to think of this path as something that's just a walk in the park. This isn't meant to be easy. And the reason for Guru now saying it in this way is to humble us, is to bring us back down to earth, so that we don't let our ego get carried away with us. So we don't think, look at me, I used to be a sinner, now I'm religious. I never used to meditate, now I'm a meditator. And being allured by all the attention that comes with that. That, wow, look how spiritual he is. Your family will turn around to you and say, wow, you've stopped drinking, you've stopped partying, you've stopped doing these things, you've become a Gyani, you've become all-wise. They'll call you Babaji. So your family will start giving you this attention, and you need to be aware that this attention isn't good for you. This isn't something for you to now use. This isn't something for you to hold on to. Don't be fooled by the attention that the world gives you. Otherwise you become one of these insects, these imposters, who haven't actually gone all the way, but because you've gone further than anyone else, you can start now pretending, you can now start preaching to the world. So this is what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is talking about. Is sun galna aakas ki kita airis. That the insects have heard about these heavenly ideas, and they start imitating the things that they've heard. And Guru ends this verse with Nanak nadari paye. You will obtain this with grace only. Kudi kuda tis. Nanak says that it is obtained by grace. Kudi kuda tis. Kudi means the false ones. The people who are false. Kuda tis. They have false speech. Tis means to brag, to boast, to show off. Nanak nadari paye. Guru Nanak Dev Ji says that this is only obtained by grace. The false ones will falsely brag. They will show off, but their showing off is false, is fake. And we are reminded that this comes only by grace. Without grace, we have no authority with which we can discuss the true nature of the divine. Remember this. Whenever you think that your opinion of God is better than someone else's opinion of God, where does your opinion come from? Is it something that you've heard? Is it something that you've read? Or is it something that you've known? Be honest with yourself. We take so much pride in our knowledge, we take so much pride in these concepts that we've come across, that we forget that the pride is more significant than our concepts. We think, look how clever I am. Look how much knowledge I've managed to attain. But there is an underlying pride that is a bigger issue here. The concept is just that. It's just a concept. It's not actually something you've known. It's as though you have an idea of what the ocean looks like, without ever having been to the ocean, without ever seeing a picture of the ocean, without ever having a swim in the ocean. You can have whatever concept you like, but it is just that. It's just an imagination. Now you will argue with somebody else about your imagination being better than somebody else's imagination. Neither of you have swum in the ocean. Neither of you have ever visited the ocean. Neither of us know what God is, but we're so willing to argue our definition of God is better than somebody else's definition of God. So remember this, your pride is what is stopping you from even going on the journey. The very pride that you have, that I think I know what God is already, that is stopping you from actually going there and achieving it. You may be so convinced that you know about God that you may never actually need to walk on the path towards God, because you know. And we see this time and time again. We see so many times older generations within the Sikhs saying, "Bachyan nu padhao." Teach the children. Do you know everything? Have you learnt it all? They think they do. The older generation is convinced. We know what the Guru says. We know how to do our part. We've kept our kesh. Hun bachyan nu sikhao. Now teach the children. And of course it's important to teach the next generation, but don't be convinced that you know. If you think you know, then you are no different to what Guru is saying, Sun galla aakas ki. That you've heard these ideas, but you don't know them. Gita iris, you're just imitating. And then, kudi kudatis, you're just talking, useless, babbling rubbish. Until you know, until you've had Nanak Nadari Paiya, until you've obtained it. Paiya means, I've got it. I've actually obtained it. I'm here. I've reached the top. Guru says that is only by grace. And if you don't have that grace, don't think that you have anything. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.